There's a lot the opera world can learn from the absolute cultural chokehold Wicked has had on audiences. From casting, to acting, to branding, to the press tour, Wicked has gone from just another Broadway film adaptation to a global phenomenon. So why hasn't opera ever had the same success? Like, not even one little cultural moment of people going like, you know what? Opera's kind of slaying. Because on paper, Wicked and opera have so much in common. Plots told through music, girls in big sparkly dresses, powerful singing, dramatic storylines, cast scandals. Honestly, we could do without that last one. But opera has all the ingredients for massive mainstream appeal, and yet, so in this video, I want to dig into that. I've looked at the casting, the acting styles, and the vocal techniques of Wicked versus opera. And at the end of the video, I'll show you 3 operas that do give me hope, because there is hope out there, guys, okay? There's hope. Hi, I'm Cait. I'm an opera singer, and this is what Wicked understands about modern audiences that opera has kind of forgotten. Also, do you like that I've got like the coordination here? Pink, green background. It's like I planned it. Oh, I forgot to light my candle. Oh God. Untenable. Untenable, guys. Act 1, accurate casting, which is a shorter way of saying that the actors actually look and act like the characters without asking the audience to suspend disbelief. To illustrate, let's take a look at Glinda and Elphaba and compare them to Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo. In the first film, Glinda is university age, same for Elphaba. I get the sense personally that Elphaba is actually a little bit older than Glinda because her little sister is the one who's starting at Shiz and Elphaba didn't get the chance to go. So in like my head canon, Elphaba is like maybe 22 and Glinda is 19. That's what I'm gonna go with. Of course, the second film is either 12 Moons or 5 years later. I'm gonna go 5 years, which is what it is in the musical. So now Glinda is like 24 and Elphaba is like 27, 28. Now we'll compare that to Ariana and Cynthia. Ariana was 29 when filming started. She was in her early 30s by the end. And Cynthia was 35 at the start and 36 at the end. And I didn't notice that at all. And that's the point. By the time we actually get into the movie theater and all the effects have been applied and all the makeup and you know all that stuff, we're not having to sit in the audience and look at the actors and think, are they actually the right age? No, it just looks like they are. That allows us to get immersed. It doesn't distract us from the storytelling. We can just, focus on what's going on. But age is actually only the first half of it. The second half is that the actors need to be able to portray the characters. So like to do the traits that a 19 or 25-year-old would do. We have to believe that they actually are Glinda or Elphaba. So we'll break these characters down really quick. Glinda is an ingenue. She's a charming, naive, sparkly, well-intentioned girly girl who's like in the throes of her popular era. Meanwhile, Elphaba is resilient, outspoken, sarcastic, principled, and she gives off this older sister who's already adulting type energy. But what's cool in the Wicked film specifically is that Ariana and Cynthia didn't just nail the characters they were given. They expanded on them. Cynthia made Elphaba human in a way that felt new even to me. And I'm a Wicked hipster. Like, I adored the 1939 movie when it came out. That's a joke about how I'm like an old person at heart. Not that there was a 1930, you get it. I feel like what Cynthia brought was this layer of like confidence as a shield. Elphaba wasn't just like going through life all justified and righteous as a personality trait. Cynthia's portrayal was that she was scared and confused and like trying to do the right thing while wondering why literally nobody else seemed to care. She made the vulnerable side of Elphaba very clear and very likable. I like that. And for Ariana, not only was she like actually funny, genuinely laugh out loud funny, but her Glinda also wasn't thoughtless. She was very almost like Elle Woods coded, like someone who was actually pretty brilliant, but never needed to show it. Her character is not ashamed of sparkles and pink and fluffy pens, even though everyone else has decided that adulthood must be beige. Her Glinda has depth. She's not swinging on the light just because she's silly or childish or something. She knows exactly what she's doing. Being disarmingly youthful works for her. It disarms people, and Ariana's Glinda uses that strategically. And now if you watch an interview with Cynthia and Ariana, if you watch an interview with Ariana and Cynthia, then you'll almost feel like, oh, right, oh, they're real people. That is accurate casting. Now let's look at this in opera. One of the hardest things to explain to people who come to opera for the first time is, yes, the soprano playing the 16-year-old is 47. Nope, that's not unusual. No questions, please. There are lots of reasons for this. And again, it's enough for an entire other video, but here are the cliff notes. Opera houses today are bigger than when most operas were written. So a bigger house means that bigger voices are needed than what the composer might have intended, which means that older, like physically older bodies are needed that can actually produce those sounds big enough to fill the space. And because of that, second reason, over the years, we've gotten more accustomed to what an older voice sounds like. So seasoned opera audiences think a physically younger voice sounds less professional, even when that actual youth is what the composer intended in the first place. Third reason, in opera, singers will usually peak, like they'll hit their prime in their mid-30s to mid-40s. So I, at the age of 34, am approaching my final form. It's very exciting. And because of that, fourth reason, the training pipelines for opera singers push these young singers into young artist programs all the way into their late 20s, which delays the career start, obviously, kind of like doctors. Like I said, a whole other video, but my point is, it doesn't have to be this way. What's wrong with a youthful sound and youthful energy and youthful physicality? Maybe opera composers actually wanted the freshness of youth and the imperfection that might come with that in their music. And maybe audiences do too. Actually, I would argue that they definitely do, and I think that the success of Wicked is part of the proof of that. Moving on to Act 2, the acting. I mean, the Wicked cast nailed it. This is like top tier stage show acting. Is it different from the acting you'd see in a normal Hollywood drama? 100%. It's bigger, it's cheesier, it's more dramatic. It's such a love letter to live theater. And honestly, I do think that a lot of the audiences that go to see Wicked are like theater kids at heart. But then being kind, I am not dragging opera singers. I am an opera singer. I love us, okay? But we have to acknowledge that there is something different about the system that we're being hired into. Picture two singers in their early 20s auditioning for professional roles. One is a young Cynthia Erivo auditioning on Broadway. The other is a young me auditioning at the Met. True story. As a musical theater actor, Cynthia needs 32 bars of music plus a 1-minute spoken monologue. I'm leaving off like agents and knowing people and all that stuff that gets you hired in the big leagues. We're just talking about like general auditions, okay? The monologue tests acting. The music tests singing and acting. As an opera singer, I need to bring 5 arias from different languages and eras. The panel will choose one and I will sing the whole thing, even if it's 10 minutes long. At no point will anyone ask me to demonstrate my acting. None. Now, to be fair, opera has almost no spoken dialogue, so a monologue doesn't really make sense. But even in the delivery of the aria itself, if I get any feedback, that's rare, but if I do, none of it's going to be about acting. No one's going to comment on my character choices. No one is going to tell me that, you know, mirroring my hands when I'm doing something looks weird and unnatural. It's not going to be any of that. It's all going to be commentary on my musical interpretation, on my historical accuracy, on the way that I decided to approach a note or a certain phrase or something like that. But no acting notes. Okay? Now, let's say that Cynthia and I both get hired for the roles that we've auditioned for. Love that for us. Cynthia and I are both going to spend weeks preparing. On Cynthia's part, she's going to learn lines, music, blocking, choreography, but she's also going to do a full character study. That means that she's going to work through questions like, what is the character's temperament? What's the motivation in each scene? Why does the character react like that? What is the character's favorite food and why? What was the character's best school subject? What was the character's love language? That way, when the director says something like, okay, on this line, I want you to move from this side of the stage to that side of the stage, Cynthia asks herself, why would my character do that? Not to like question the director or anything, but just to make it clear in her mind what the motivation is for the character to execute that blocking. So by the time a musical theater actor reaches the professional stage, they inhabit the character every single second they're in front of an audience. Every gesture, every glance, every hesitation, it has a reason. And it feels seamless to us as the audience. We don't really notice it. We're just watching a story unfold. We forget that these people are actually acting. That's what good acting does. And the Wicked film understood that. Their casting demanded the full package. Okay, that's what Cynthia is going to do. Let's go back to the opera world. As an opera singer, my job, first and foremost, is to prepare my music. I'm not saying we don't do character studies, okay? We are taught to do that, and many singers do, especially in the professional leagues. But when push comes to shove, my job is to deliver the score. That's what I got hired to do over everyone else. So most of my preparation time is going to go to the voice, the technique, the musical interpretation. Then character work will get layered on top, time permitting. Okay, so once I've self-prepared, then I'm going to start going to coachings. My coach will work with me on musicality, historical accuracy, and pronunciation. I'll also have rehearsals with the conductor, which will cover tempi and pacing and ensemble coordination, and then we'll have staging rehearsals. To be fair, a lot of the music is what makes acting hard while you're doing it. You might have all these like coloratura runs, you've got all this breath control you have to do, you have these incredibly long phrases. It's hard. You know, we can't do Beyonce at the Super Bowl choreography. It would ruin the singing. But I do think that we can work to make more intentional choices more consistently whenever we're standing in front of an audience. You know, a glance can have meaning. A turn of the head can have motivation. Lifting our eyes to the ceiling can happen for a reason rather than a technique that you do now because you've been practicing it in the practice room and it's what makes you feel like the only thing that you can do to hit your high note consistently, you know? Not like that's a thing for me or anything, just, you know. I think our takeaway from Wicked in acting is that opera can benefit from more intention behind our movements and a little bit more consistency in characterization. And if that means that we're going to be casting somebody who has 95% of the voice, but 150% of the acting ability, honestly, let's go. I think we need that. Opera's not a concert, no matter how many times people will say that you should just like close your eyes and listen and enjoy the music. No, sir. You close your eyes and listen. The rest of us would like to watch an opera. All right, let's get into the big one, the singing. Okay, yes, obviously this is what makes opera and musical theater fundamentally different. I am not advocating for opera to sound more like musical theater. Not what I'm doing here, okay? However, modern audiences do seem to prefer the sound of the singers in Wicked to the sound of modern opera singers, generally speaking. And I think that there are things that opera singers can learn from that, myself included. Also very important, throughout this entire comparison, I'm only going to show opera singers who are under 36 at the time of recording, because Cynthia was 35, 36 while filming Wicked, and Ariana was 29, 30, so this is a fair comparison. A comparison, if you will. I will. Okay, here are the basic core elements of singing that I described in a previous video. Tweaking each of these individual elements is what creates the genre our ears hear. So if we were to put each of these on a slider, theoretically, you could set these sliders to account for every singer. We'll start at the top here with resonance. A fully resonant tone, the thing that singers would call connected or on the voice singing. That means that every vocal space is engaged in your body. Mask, mouth, trachea, chest, and diaphragm. It's like this pure ringy sound that doesn't have any air in it. It's the difference between and in musical theater, singers can choose whether they want to be on or off the voice in order to match the emotion of the character. In opera, it's always going to be on the voice. We're always going to be connected to that resonance because we don't use microphones, and resonance is what allows that sound to carry out into the space, even if you're singing quietly. So again, I'm not advocating that opera starts suddenly coming off the voice. That's not part of the technique. But what I am saying is that I think there's still something that we can learn from why Ariana and Cynthia specifically choose the moments they do to come off the voice.
I wouldn't be happier, so I couldn't be happier.
Because even within the realm of constant resonance, opera singers can manipulate that for emotion. Like, we are perfectly physically capable of doing so. We just choose not to. So even when Puccini specifically writes pianissimo in the score, we get a performance that sounds like this. Now, to be clear, Masabane's singing is stunning, obviously, but it's also too loud. And you can hear that she could go softer. It's there, it's in the voice. I would even bet that she tried, and then somebody told her not to. Because that's what happens. Like, if you try to actually sing a quiet phrase in opera, still on the voice, still resonant, but truly quiet, you're going to be told all sorts of things. It's tasteless. Ooh, you can't insult a singer more. The dynamics are emotional suggestions, not actual literal volumes. Arias should have one overarching dynamic feel, as opposed to little changes in each phrase. Ask me how I know. But imagine how much more emotional impact opera could have if we separated resonance from volume. Wicked is proof that that contrast is powerful. Defying Gravity and No Good Deed both fucking slap because they are contrasted against moments of quiet. So, opera friends, I think that we can push back here. I think we can ask to be able to have a little bit more control over our volume. More dynamic range, less constant loudness. Let's move on. This video is gonna get so long. Timbre is a fancy way of saying the color of a voice, but not as fancy as the classical art term that we will now use, chiaroscuro. It means the balance of light and dark. And in singing, that would mean how forward or how back your voice is. So a forward sound would sound like ah, and a back sound would sound like oh. And then a chiaroscuro sound would sound like ah. a mix of both. Opera singing trends way darker than most other genres, which is why when people imitate opera, they kind of like Vogue Kermit the Frog. My Kermit impression is so bad. Quick note here for anyone who doesn't know. While musical theater singers can sort of adjust their tone from role to role to more embody a character, you know, be a little bit more chiaro for one role, a little bit more scuro for another, sort of voice acting in their approach to each role, opera singers do not. Absolutely not. You train your voice to do what your voice does, and then if it fits the character, it fits the character. And if it doesn't, you're not hired. We do not change our entire vocal identity for a character. Okay, let's compare. Ariana as Glinda has maximum chiaro. It's super forward, it's bright, childlike, nasal, fragile, almost glassy.
Whenever I see someone less fortunate than I, and let's face it, right, who isn't less fortunate than I?
It's not her natural voice, but the characters. It's why people reacted so strongly when they heard her in interviews, because like, boy, she really leaned in. A little less conversation and a little more touch my body. And I would say that Cynthia as Elphaba is like the holy grail of balanced chiaroscuro. Her voice doesn't hit our ear weirdly in any way, like at all. Actually, I would say it's the opposite. It is so good. It is so good, guys. It's forward enough to sound clean and modern and clear, but dark enough to give it a little bit of that rich, powerful sound.
No wizard that there is or was is ever gonna bring me down.
Now, believe it or not, opera singers are actually trained to sound a little bit more like Cynthia in terms of chiaroscuro placement, I mean. But there are trends in the opera world. Voice color will go in and out of fashion, just like interior design goes in and out of fashion. And for the last 50 years or so, opera has been in like its everything must be walnut phase. And singers who have a naturally lighter side to their voice have been artificially darkening their sound to try and make it sound more like what's in vogue. And singers who already have a naturally dark tone are also artificially darkening. Articuno. And I think it's such a shame because opera does not require the current level of darkness you're going to hear in an opera house in order to be opera. And I think Wicked audiences' love of Cynthia's voice is proof that that chiaroscuro sound, when it's executed correctly, is still something they really like. So I think what we can learn from Wicked is to move ourselves a little closer back to that chiaroscuro sound that isn't quite so much scuro. A little bit more chiaro. For clarity, this means distortion in the sound, which sadly is not up for debate. In opera, we don't have any distortion, ever. Moving on. Vibrato. Oh boy. I'm going to keep this one short because I am literally editing a video that's like all entirely dedicated to this topic. But for now, musical theater allows room for no vibrato. Opera does not. It's a genre difference. That being said, there is still a lot of room in there for how that vibrato sounds when it is used. We can break vibrato into two different sliders. We've got your width, how far above or below the pitch the vibrato oscillates. And then we have the speed, how fast it oscillates. So for example, I would say that Ariana sits here on these sliders. Her vibrato is relatively quick and relatively tight. It sounds pleasant. It sounds natural.
These things I send to try us.
Her vibrato sits in a place that warms the sound. You know, it still sounds like the same pitch, just sparklier. Very in character. Now let's compare that to Cynthia's vibrato. Still the same speed, more or less, but it is a bit wider. And that's common for belters. It still sounds like one pitch, but it's not a wobble.
But help me meet the wizard if I make good.
Now opera. You can hear that even at the age of 24, Joan Sutherland has a similar width to Cynthia's, but it's way slower. And this is what makes opera vibrato sound so distinct to non-opera ears. It sounds like almost multiple pitches instead of one pitch. And current opera vibrato trends are even wider and even slower. And because it's on every single note, that's what audiences imitate when they think of opera. I'm not advocating that we remove vibrato. I'm just saying that we do have control over the speed and the width of it. And we could be more mindful about that. A century ago, opera vibrato was much closer to today's musical theater vibrato. It's almost like the change happened so gradually that we barely noticed it, but new audiences definitely do. Like I said, I have a much more detailed video about this coming soon, so if you want to see that, then you can click the bell and you'll know when that comes out. For now, more control over our vibrato, more acknowledgement that we can control our vibrato. For note approach, what I mean by this is how a singer gets into a note. Like, you know how in pop, they might like vocal fry into it, or in opera, we might glissando from one note to another, that like slidey type sound, that. So down here at one end of the slider, we have clean approaches. And then at the other end, we have, I don't want to say messy, let's say free approaches. Ariana's Glinda voice is very clean. She has these bell-like onsets. It's precise, it's sparkly, no scooping, no swooping. It's pretty. Now, opera singers say that we prefer to have a clean onset or a clean note approach, but I think audiences would disagree. Even in most what we would call clean operatic performances at the professional level, there's going to be a little bit of swooping, a little bit of slide, a little scooping, a little smudge of emotion. And I get why, at least for me. I think it's because I'm not allowed to do distortion or coming off the voice or any other thing that would be able to show some kind of emotion in the voice itself without doing some kind of messing with the note approach. And I guess messy is the right word. If I'm messing with it, then it's messy. Yeah. But audiences can hear that it sounds like we're compensating for something. And so that's why I think that this particular piece goes hand in hand with resonance. If opera singers were allowed to use a bit more dynamic nuance in the way that they sang, I think we wouldn't find ourselves relying so much on messy note approaches in order to make up for that lack of emotional impact. So when we're talking about note approach that doesn't have distortion or being off the voice or anything like that, let's do our emotion in other ways. Pronunciation. I already have a whole other video about this. You can go check that out. I talk about why opera pronunciation is the way it is, and spoiler, why I don't like it. I will leave that linked below, but for now, let's just take a quick comparison. Here's one of Glinda's lines sung by Ariana. Clear as day. Now, fair enough. She is kind of compensating for pronouncing so clearly by coming off the voice. You know, she's like disengaged her singing chakras, as it were. Some of the vowels are really hard to do in an operatic way on a high note because you have to open your mouth for resonance, but then that's going to distort your vowel. And if you don't want to distort your vowel, then you're going to have to keep your mouth closed, which will like mess with your resonance. And then you get into you understand. Okay, now for the sake of comparison, here's Kristin Chenoweth, the original Glinda on Broadway, singing the same line. Now, how do we account for this? This is undoubtedly operatic. I don't think that there's going to be a single opera singer who would say that Kristin can't sing legitimate opera. And yet, she still pronounces every vowel and consonant in a way that we would expect it to be pronounced. Right? It's not too far back. It's not distorted. It's fully on the voice. It's fully resonant. I mean, maybe it's not like quite as clearly pronounced as the way that Ariana did it, but I don't think that it's as ununderstandable as... There's so much to learn from the Wicked cast here. Like I said, I already made a whole video about that. I've linked it below. You can go check that out if you're interested. Moving on. The last one we have here is expression. And honestly, I don't really think that Wicked is doing anything that opera singers don't already do. Like, you know, both genres require huge amounts of vocal acting. And we both get teased for it. You know, it's over the top. It is what it is. I don't think this one's a way that Wicked understands audiences better. Okay, let's end on a high note here. So I have put together a list of 3 operas that I've recently seen that I absolutely love and that I really think had the, what I would call the Wicked effect, starting with La Bohème at the Met. Literally the performance from last month, November 2025. Y'all, I was literally gobsmacked. My smacks were gobbed. The cast was young. Young. Mimi. 24 years old. Oh my God. Watching her was an absolute delight. I was delighted. I was so tickled. She was funny. She was charming. She was, oh my God, she was so charming. To me, just completely believable. Plus, Zeffirelli set, so it was gorgeous. It was gorgeous. I've seen a lot of La Bohèmes, and this one, best I've ever seen. Best I've ever seen? I feel confident in that. Best I've ever seen. It was beautiful. Highly recommend. 12 out of 10. Absolutely phenomenal. Number 2, Madame Butterfly, the movie adaptation version. I know it's more Puccini. Sorry, not sorry. Spot on casting. Every single person is the correct age. The voices all sound young and I would say human. Like there are moments of imperfection in the performance and oh, I love it. The filming is also beautiful. And because it's a movie, it's like it's a movie set as opposed to a stage set. And they honored that so well. Can you have Madame Butterfly without tatami mats? I mean, every single opera house in the world has tried, but I would say no. No. This is exactly the sort of thing that I wish more opera movie adaptations would do today. Well, shit, I wish we had more opera movie adaptations. And the last one here is this production of Carmen at the Met. She is fierce. 2010 levels of Gay Club fierce. She's seductive. She is completely in control of the stage. Like you cannot look away from her, like magnetic, you know? And her performance makes you feel every single note, every single movement has intention. God, I so buy her as a character. If this doesn't give you Wicked level chills, I genuinely don't know what will. Now, obviously I haven't seen everything, like 2/3 of my examples are from the Met, lol. So if you know of any other operas, productions that people can go see that hit the same way that Wicked does, please leave them in the comments. I think we would all love to be able to go check those out. Put them down there. Share with the class. And again, just to be crystal clear, like this is all coming from a place of love and admiration. I feel like opera deserves so much more than it has right now in terms of audience appreciation. Because like imagine what would happen if opera took the audience's impressions as seriously as Wicked does. I think we'd be seeing a lot more magic on stages around the world if that were to happen. I think it should happen. But yeah, for now you can go enjoy those performances. If you haven't already, in my not so humble opinion, they are opera at its absolute best. Hey buddy, come here. This is Ryuko, everyone. Oh, poaches. Oh, he does not want to be here. Okay. Ooh.